Happy Easter, everybody. Just delighted you could join us here at Westroad and Wesley Community Church. My name's David Oakley, Senior Pastor, and I'm just so pleased you could join us on this Easter Sunday. Question for you to get us started today. What is your favourite conspiracy theory? Come on, what is your favourite conspiracy theory? Is it Elvis works at your chip shop? Is it the moon landing? Is it the Loch Ness Monster? Or is it who shot JFK? What's the thing you love to chat about and come at different angles at? Okay, you've got that in your mind. Now, where does Jesus of Nazareth rising from the dead compare to that? How does that compare? It's Easter, isn't it? As Christians, we claim Jesus rose from the dead. Is that a conspiracy theory? Or is it something we can really trust? Well, hopefully in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you there's really something we can trust in. You can trust that Jesus of Nazareth is alive. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. First of all, because of the eyewitnesses. Secondly, because of the evidence. And thirdly, because of the expectations. As a result of these 3 things, I believe we really can trust that Jesus rose from the dead. And what we're going to do to help us unpack this is go right back to a primary source. It's called the Book of Mark, and you can find it in the second part of the Bible, the New Testament. And it was written within a generation of Jesus going back to heaven. And it was written from a perspective of Peter. Peter, of course, was a really close friend of Jesus. He hung out with him all the time. And Mark writes this eyewitness account on behalf of Peter. And so we're really going to get stuck into looking at this passage. And Mark really emphasized Jesus being all action and being supernatural and miraculous. And of course, if we're talking about someone rising from the dead, that's the kind of stuff we want to see, isn't it? And we're going to jump right to the end to Mark 16. Where we've left it at Mark 15 is Jesus has been executed by the Roman soldiers. 3 times in that chapter it mentions Jesus is dead. So there's no swooning, no coma theories here. He was dead. Then it records how he was placed in a tomb. On the hills, the mountainous hills, the rocky hills just outside Jerusalem, many tombs were carved into the rocks there, and Jesus' body was placed in there. So the question, as we follow up on this now, very sport, what's next, what's happening next here is, what happened to that body? So firstly, we want to talk about eyewitnesses. Whatever you think about your conspiracy theory, you need good eyewitnesses, either to debunk it or to prove it, isn't it? You need someone who is reliable. Let me tell you about these eyewitnesses from Mark chapter 16. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so they might go to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb. So we see these 3 ladies. These 3 ladies, they had been there in the crucifixion. They had seen Jesus died. 2 of these 3 ladies then went on to see him being buried. And so here they are early on a Sunday morning, after the Friday afternoon when Jesus had died and been buried. They'd had a Sabbath day's rest, and now the 3 of them are coming to the tomb in order to anoint the body of Jesus. Because of course a decaying body is going to smell, isn't it? It was their loving devotion. And so they're turning up here, and this is what happens in verses 3 and 4. They asked each other, who will roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb? But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. So there's no expectations or agenda from these ladies at all. They're going expecting to see a tomb with a big rock across in order to basically anoint a dead body. And yet, what do they see? The tombstone is gone. So these eyewitnesses, they are reliable. They're just ordinary people. There's no agenda here. They're not weird or anything like that. They knew Jesus. They were part of his support team. So there was no mistaken identity. They didn't get the wrong tomb because they'd seen where he's buried. These are good, reliable eyewitnesses. So straight away, we're ticking the first box that you can trust that Jesus of Nazareth is alive. But hey, let's move on. What about some physical evidence? Because let's face it, sometimes our eyes can deceive us, can't we? And it doesn't always happen that our eyewitness accounts are exactly accurate. So what does it say in verse 5? As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. So the tomb was open, and they decided to walk in, and they have an encounter with another eyewitness. This eyewitness was actually an angel. The implication of the white robe comes across here. You might say, whoa, hold on, David, here we're trying to prove something. You're talking about angels now, you're getting weird. Well, actually, we shouldn't be surprised, because aren't angels God's messengers? Aren't they part of the supernatural activity of God? And actually, this angel's here to reassure them and encourage them. As we read in verses 6, "Don't be alarmed," he said. "You're looking for Jesus, the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him." So this angel's trying to reassure them, saying, hey, I know you came for a dead body. I know you came to see that crucified Jesus whose hands were pierced by the nails, but he has risen. And he doesn't just say, right, I've told you that, now off you go. He says, come and examine the tomb. Come and investigate. And this is the exciting thing. This guy doesn't just say, oh, well, stay away and just believe what I say. He's actually requiring them to examine the evidence that's in front of them, that invitation. And in a way, that's what I want you to do. This is what we're doing today, giving you the invitation. Come on, examine the evidence. Is Jesus risen from the dead? What is the explanation for the physical evidence of an empty tomb? We've got to have some explanation. There's no dead body and the tomb is empty. This is the physical evidence. What explanation can you give? And that brings us on to the expectations. You know, if you witnessed a major event, wouldn't you expect to be different? If history was being changed as a result of what you saw, wouldn't you expect to be different and transformed? Well, this is what happened to these ladies. This is what happened to the followers of Jesus. As we listen in chapter 16, verse 7 of Mark, the angel says, "Go, tell his disciples and Peter, he's going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." So we've heard the eyewitness accounts. We've seen the physical evidence. Now to the expectation that these ladies will go and tell. No longer in the background at the crucifixion, no longer in the background watching the burial, right at the centre of everything that's going to happen. There at the forefront now. And also they bring great encouragement. It says, go and tell the disciples and Peter. Remember, these are the people who fell. These are the people who fell away. These are the people who were scared and ran off. And Jesus, through the angel, saying, hey, I love you guys. I still want you to be part of things. And then he gives this anticipation of meeting with them again in Galilee. Yes, physically, I'm going to reveal myself to you. And Jesus starts to do that on this Easter Sunday. 6 or 7 times he appears to different people in different situations on that Easter Sunday. Then for 40 days to over 500 people, he met with other people to show he was resurrected and alive. And so there is this sense of, we've got this expectation we can meet with the risen Jesus, but we haven't actually experienced him yet. This is what's coming across from these ladies. They know in their hearts that Jesus is alive because it was predicted there's going to be a future meeting, but they're still waiting for that experience. And I guess that's where we're at as we think about our response to the risen Jesus. 2 action points to finish off. First of all, do you want to know more about the risen Jesus? Do you want to investigate more? See, the thing is, something like resurrection takes a bit of getting used to. These disciples had to see Jesus a number of times before they really got it. And we want to offer you the opportunity to investigate more about Christianity. We run something called Alpha. Over 6,000 Alpha courses are running in the UK right now for tens of thousands of people, so you won't be alone. And the other great thing is you can do it from your own living room, because we'll do it on a Zoom, perhaps on a Monday night after Easter, and we can run it over a number of weeks where you can ask the hard questions. You know, can we trust the Bible? Who is Jesus? Why did he die? All these kinds of questions. We'd love you to respond like these ladies did at the tomb when the angel says, come and investigate. You can investigate Jesus. So just get in touch with us. Office at westroad.online.church, and we'd love to get you signed up for an Alpha. But secondly, maybe you believe this stuff. Maybe you are a follower of Jesus. Maybe you said, yeah, I get it, David. Jesus is alive. Is it your time, like these women, to move from the background and move to the forefront? As you start to think about your family, your friends, your work, your neighbours, is it now your time, instead of perhaps being a little bit in the shadows, to step up and start to share this great news? Jesus is alive. He didn't resuscitate, he resurrected. No one else in all history has done this. Surely this has got to be the good news we've got to share and investigate and respond to. Thanks so much for watching. God bless you this Easter time.